Mike's Daily Podcast.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's been a week, so I can't really do this thing called the daily thing. So Mike's Daily Podcast, not the Daily Show. That was Comedy Central. Started watching that in the 90s. That's when Liz Winstead started it. Is it Lynn Winstead? That gal. And then there was that comedian, the woman that had the funny jokes that she said. But then there was Craig Kilborn was the host of the show, but she did some of the writing, came up with the idea. Mike's Daily Podcast. Instrumental force behind it, and it lives on today. And I don't know why I just gave you that Mike's description for a different show. Daily. That's not this show called Podcast. Mike's Daily Podcast. So yeah. And this show tends to have that theme song at the beginning. You maybe noticed. Yes, it seems to be on there every show. Yes, so maybe that's a little repetitive. Maybe that's why there's no listeners to this show. I don't know. All I know is it's been a week. Oh. Hey, here's my tax advice for you. Wait to the last possible second. Pay someone to do it, but wait to the last possible second, because you don't want... Here's what the money experts say. They say you don't want money back. I know that sounds counterintuitive. You don't want a refund. You never want a refund, because that means there was money held by the government for a year. I think for a year. Yeah, for a while anyway. That could have been used to, I don't know, get interest at least on it, like a bank would give you, even if it's only like 25 cents a month, if that. Or you could have had it in stocks or a mutual fund or a 401k, an ETF, all those other crazy things. Instead, the government just held on to it. They don't give you anything extra for that. Just food for thought.
And here's today's podcast picture.
A-Frame, who's going to be having a baby soon? I don't know. I don't know what the podcast pictures is. I was in the last one. I don't know if that was a good idea. I'm looking through recent photos. Oh, so we had this stray cat come by the house a lot. He was really sweet, kind of a fluffy brown black cat. We called him Orson because he just kind of came in and did what he wanted and directed a movie, and he was annoying. But then he got to be really friendly. Oh, Basil wouldn't have liked that at all. He would have been, get out of here, and chased him out. Oh, Basil the Boxer, the late great Basil the Boxer. One more. Wow. So we fed the cat. The cat got friendlier, and let us pet him. We scratched his little head, and he came by all the time. Well, a week and a half ago was the last time we saw him. He hasn't shown up since. I live in California, near the hills in Podcastro Valley, and we're broadcasting from Podcastro Valley today, cafe anyway, the last place on earth. And coyotes is all I got to say. Coyotes, lots of coyotes. So it doesn't look good for Orson. It was the best of both worlds. We had a pet that wasn't really our pet. We fed him. He let us pet him, but he wasn't our pet. So, at any rate, I guess the point is that I haven't been able to do a podcast lately because I've been stressed. There are people at work that stress me out. None of them that listen to this podcast. Oh, one of them says to me yesterday, I've become sort of his therapist. He'll call me up, and this is true of more than one person at the company I work for. They'll call me up and then complain and whine and tell me all the things that are going wrong in their lives, which, by the way, I guess that's sort of like what I'm doing with you right now. But I did, and I got this call right after I found out about my taxes, and I owe more than I have ever owed in my life this current tax period. which is what I was saying at the beginning. You don't want to have the federal government holding on to your money and then giving it back to you in a refund, even though we love refunds. Oh, look, there's extra money. But at the same time, it sucks, of course, when you got to pay. So I say, if you got to pay anyway, wait to the last minute to pay. Wait to the last minute to see your CPA. Who's going to charge you anyway? This guy charges me a pretty good amount, but I mean, he does a lot of work for me, so in the end, I waited to the last possible second. They were very accommodating. They took care of it. Tax day is on Monday. And I am now going to be writing a check. I'm going to wait till Monday, though, to write this crazy big check. They can wait. And, yeah, I like to wait on that kind of stuff. Other stuff I like to get done as soon as possible. But this is something I'm waiting on. All right, I'm going to post a podcast picture from a walk I did in the beautiful area above, I think it's called Willow. Is it Willow Park, the golf course? There in Redwood Canyon in Podcaster Valley. I went on this nice hike. And there's a nice picture here. I'll post it. Mike'sDailyPodcast.com. Okay, so this guy who's complaining, and I'm his therapist for him, apparently, tells me that there are now on iTunes over 2 million podcasters. Not podcasts, podcasters. So one podcaster could have more than one podcast. For example, yours truly, I've got this, Mike's Daily Podcast, but I also have, although I've only done a few episodes of it, it's called Into an Interview, and that features some of the interviews I've done with musicians. And I haven't done one in over a year, so it's just been sitting there in iTunes for people to listen to if they want. As we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. So he says that, which makes me feel this big, this tiny, this minuscule, when he says that to me. Then I find out, but he goes, present company not included, talking about how a lot of podcasters don't know what they're doing and they're awful and they sound awful. And I know I don't sound the best, but still, it's like, and he goes, I understand, Mike, you do this for a hobby, but there's so many podcasters you're competing with. And I go, I know. And the fact that I've been podcasting more than, or longer than a lot of them have, that doesn't come into play. No one cares. They just see what's up there. And iTunes and Google Play and Spreaker, Stitcher, all of them basically only promote the ones that have a lot of listeners to begin with. The Joe Rogans, the NPR type shows like Planet Money and This American Life and all that. They promote those, or the sports ones that are really popular. The ones that are ahead of everybody stay further ahead because they get promoted more. And of course, they're probably also, did I get a call? It's always when I'm doing a podcast that I get a call. At any rate, you got to do what's you. Last night I'm watching, I had all this stuff I was going to talk about too. And I'm going to blow it all off. Because there's stuff I haven't talked about for a while. Maybe I'll get to it next podcast. I got to podcast more is the whole solution to that problem. I watched Jules Holland last night. Go to his YouTube page. Jules Holland was the keyboardist for Squeeze. And then he had that Jules Holland show on BBC, I think it was, where he performs with all these different musicians. Just an amazing guy. So he's a fantastic pianist. And he talks about the piano, and he's on the piano. He did this, I think, last year. He's working from home, staying at home, sheltering in place. And he says, look, this is the piano. Talks a little bit about the history of it. And he goes, when you play the piano, you're not going to necessarily play like me. You're going to find your own style. And then when you find your own style, you're going to do it the way you do it. And that's fine. Do it the way you do it. You know, you could do it this way, that way. Just really kind of got my creative juices flowing again. Maybe that's why I'm doing a podcast today. But yeah, he is awe-inspiring. His hands are all over the keys, playing boogie woogie, jazz, he plays with all these different musicians. He's written songs with Sting. So anyway, very good stuff. If you love the piano, go to his channel on YouTube and it'll help you. Hey, we're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. I knew as soon as I started doing this podcast, my wonderful job would start to bug me again. So I guess I got to get back to that. But look who's out here. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How's y'all doing? It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player, tell you what. What? I thought y'all were going to talk about microbiomes and such. Let's see. Yeah, microbiomes. I have this article that I pulled from Taste for Life, the magazine and the website. The study of the fungi inside us is in its early days. And there's a guy named Mahmoud Guannoum, and he's a PhD, author of Total Gut Balance. He says it is important to consider both the bacteria and fungi in your microbiome because they interact with each other. For instance, if you take a broad-spectrum antibiotic for an infection, oh gosh, yeah, it can kill bacteria in your gut. Yes, I found that I felt miserable. First, I had tonsillitis. So the doctor gives me antibiotics. And it helped. It made the tonsillitis go away. But next thing I know, I've got all kinds of intestinal issues going on. Microbiome issues. Without good bacteria to keep Candida albicans yeast in check, it can become invasive and cause oral and other infections around your body. The study of the fungi inside us is in its early days. Gaonan coined the term mycobiome instead of microbiome. Mycobiome just a decade ago. And we'll get into this at another point. And I kind of was talking about this in an earlier podcast, but sometimes it's uncertain whether a fungal imbalance is contributing to the medical condition or is a result of the condition. In Crohn's disease, a type of inflammatory bowel disease, fungal imbalance seems to contribute to the condition. Ganuum and his colleagues found that people with Crohn's have a higher amount of Candida tropicalis in their gut. This yeast teams up with a bad gut bacteria and forms biofilm, that's digestive plaque, to hide from your immune system and antimicrobial drugs. The biofilm can damage and inflame your gut lining. Yikes. Yeah, I got a friend that's got that. Not fun. Candida is also commonly the culprit in small intestinal fungal overgrowth. This can cause chronic bloating, indigestion, belching, nausea, diarrhea, gas, all that fun stuff. Initially, you get your microbiome, such as Candida, from your mother, says Heather Helen Adams, a PhD and a microbiologist and assistant professor at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. Later, you pick up fungi from your diet, the environment, and other people, such as by kissing. However, most fungi are just passing through and aren't really colonizing your gut. For example, and I've said in the past, I don't like the term gut, because obviously we were talking about the stomach in that area, but they just call it the gut. I'm like, what? Don't look at my gut. I know I gotta work out a little bit more, but I'm a middle-aged man. For example, the DNA of mushrooms may be found in stool tests, but that doesn't mean the fungi are living in your gut. Really? Most edible mushrooms don't grow at human body temperature. They generally prefer room temperature. Penicillium mold used to make blue cheese doesn't grow at human body temperatures either. Wow. There you go. Isn't that fascinating? Yes, we get into fascinating stuff. Look who else is here at Cafe Anyway outside. far away from any mushrooms, I think.
Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer pasta right now. Mike, your phone is ringing again.
It is, because no one wants me to do this podcast. The world is plotting to stop Mike Matthews from doing his Minuscule podcast. Dang it. Well, next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, I wish you would chime in. I wish you would say something to me. I wish you would give me a little something to keep this going. Maybe if you did, not to put it all on you, but maybe it would help me do this podcast more often and make it daily once again. You can drop me a line. There are all kinds of places to find me, as you can find at mikesdailypodcast.com. I'm on all social media, all the places to listen to podcasts. And you can comment and message me at all those places. And of course, you can also call me 336MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast tries to be, but gets interrupted all the time, as you see. Okay, with more on the website, it's A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!
And the FF episode today was FF episode 2240. Yes, of the 2 million podcasters on iTunes, apparently they have done over 15 million episodes. Podcasters out there. And yours truly has done 2,240. So there you go. You can catch all of them. Listen to past FF episodes at mikesdailypodcast.com.